Hey everybody, welcome to the Grounded Reason Podcast, episode 6. Today we're going to be talking about Kodi and piracy and how piracy affects Kodi and how if you use an Android Kodi device, you might be pirating and not even know it. But first, I want to thank all the listeners out there who've subscribed. We've got a really good response and we really do appreciate your subscriptions. And for everyone out there who's given a review, I want to say thanks. We really do appreciate the feedback. So without further ado, press the button. All right, so I've been getting a lot of questions on the blog lately about Kodi.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. It sounds like it's some sort of content aggregator for your home.
Okay. Well, basically, it's like it's a free open source, like they call it a media center, but it's really like media player software, and you can install it on any type of Windows, Mac, computer. I think you can do like Linux, Android, and it's basically a fully configurable media player to where you can put like say you have like a DVD collection that you burned or you like ripped it off and you put it into like digital media on say a hard drive. You could point Kodi, the software, at that and other ones too. So you could, if you had like 6 different sources in your house of different media,
You could point it towards
music,
everything.
and it'll bring it all in to one interface.
So it can act as an aggregator.
Yes.
But it can also go, from what I remember us talking about, you can get different add-ins that'll let you pull in different services that are out there.
Yeah, like you could also, because you can bring in, now some of them are official add-ins, like you can do, I don't think Hulu's one, I think that's unofficial, but there's like Crackle and there's Netflix, and you can bring in those add-ins in along with all the media that you own that you've pointed your
Right, you have it
Kodi
in one
front to.
place, and you can
It's all there, and music
flip
too.
back and forth.
And it can actually even, I haven't experimented with this, but supposedly you can also like launch games in it as well.
Right.
Like if it's like phone games or,
Well, that's kind of cool.
stuff like that. Yeah. So it's similar to what you would buy in like a Roku device or an Apple TV.
Right.
Let's back up a bit. I want to get into, because I actually think it's kind of cool how this thing came about. Do you remember the Xbox, not the Xbox 360, but like the original Xbox?
Yeah, one of my buddies had it when I lived in DC.
Kodi used to be called XBMC, which stood for Xbox Media Center.
Okay.
So it was originally developed by Microsoft for the Xbox when they were trying to do this like one like media center within the Xbox. And then they abandoned it and it went open source. And then people were getting confused because after they made it to where you can put it on multiple devices, install it on computers and everything else.
But it still had the naming convention.
Right. So they changed it from XBMC to Kodi, and that only happened like last year.
Yeah, I was reading it was like November of 2015 or something like that.
Right. So I wanted to bring that up because because some people might think XBMC, it's Kodi. It's all the same. Kodi is XBMC.
Right.
So I'm sorry. Before I backtracked, where were we?
So we were at the point where you were talking about official add-ins.
Oh yeah. So what you can do is they'll have all these add-ins. If you go to they have a wiki, Kodi wiki, and if you go there, it'll say all the different add-ins they have, and it's hundreds of add-ins, and they actually put them in libraries to where you can install that library and get all those add-ins. So there's like a base Kodi install that you can put together that'll get you a lot of the content, but you need those subscriptions to use it. Like if you put the Netflix,
if you don't have a Netflix subscription,
it's not
not going to work.
And you also can do all the TV Anywhere stuff, like how you do like ESPN, ESPN, and Go, is it? Or is it Watch ESPN? The ESPN app
Watch,
that you would do with
I think
cable.
it's Watch.
Right.
HBO's Go.
Well, HBO Go, ABC, all those apps that you get with your cable provider, you can put those on Kodi as well. But you need a cable subscription for those to work.
Yeah, because you can't access the content.
Exactly. So what you can do is you can put this on a computer that you have, or some people do Raspberry Pi, which is a pretty cool little device. Last I checked, they were like $35, and it was originally started. The Raspberry Pi was originally like a teaching tool, kind of, where if you wanted to learn about computer hardware and we want to put an OS or operating system on a small computer and play around with it. It's a credit card size computer, and it's just the circuit board. And it gives you, I think it is an HDMI out on it, which is why it's cool, because then you can plug it into your TV, put Kodi on this thing, and front-end it. It also has like a USB port, so you could use like a, they could call them, is it MEC remotes? Where it's like
that is what it's.
It's an IR. They'll put like an infrared detector on it, and you can use a remote with it. So if you put Kodi on this Raspberry Pi with this, this remote on it, you can essentially control the Kodi interface.
Yeah, but I mean, like at this point, we're talking about the pain in the ass factors fairly high for most people.
Yes, and that's the thing too, because this kind of comes up because I always, if I'm on the Facebook page for Grounded Reasons Facebook page, if I post any service, whether it be Sling or View, there's this type of cord cutter out there. It's the same guy I remember during the during the Sling conversation.
Yeah.
Where it's the guy that's going to complain about it's just cable over the internet. That's the same guy here that's going to scream Kodi at you as soon as you mention, oh, I've got Netflix and Hulu. Like, why don't you just use Kodi? And the thing is with that is Kodi's great, but it's not a streaming service.
Right.
It's an aggregator. It's a media center.
Yep.
And when I mentioned, I'm actually, today, as a matter of fact, I got into this discussion with someone. I don't even know why I bother sometimes with this. I should just let them go.
Yeah.
But I said, because we were talking about, somebody was mentioning how much they like View, or Vue, still.
We still don't know how to say that
PlayStation Voix. We're going to call it PlayStation Voix. So...
You can try that. My mouth doesn't do
You can't do the French.
No.
Voix. So I'm talking about View with someone, and immediately like, what? Literally, it's always, why don't you just use Kodi? And I was like, well, Kodi is an aggregator. There's no content with Kodi unless you own content or subscribe to a service that just gets you that content.
One practical example,
right?
Like you were saying with Hulu, right? If you
Hulu, I don't think is an official, but I get where you're going. I'm not sure if I think Netflix is definitely an official. I checked that out. Hulu's an unofficial one.
Well, but I guess that's where I was saying.
Right.
Is so if you go to Kodi, or you're using Kodi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get an add-on for Hulu, and you don't have a subscription with Hulu, right? And you see this, and it's advertised as a Hulu add-on, and you get content from that through Kodi, you're getting that content unofficially, like unsanctioned by Hulu.
Well, it depends. Like, cause it's Kodi is it's an open source community. So they have a process to where they say that, they bless this add-on. So it's quite possible somebody writes a completely legitimate Hulu add-on and it just hasn't been blessed yet. Doesn't mean it's illegal, or it just means that they haven't gone through that process yet. Now, if you fire up that Hulu app and someone has figured out a way to circumvent, the account, or they're using, they figured out some way.
And they get to the paid service.
Or they're just, it is literally possible that they're calling it Hulu and they're just serving stuff off of some server somewhere.
Right.
And you're getting it for free. But I'm not saying that that's happening. But it
could be.
It could be. Because you don't know what's happening with those add-ons that are unofficial, because they can be made by anywhere. And typically, and this is why you get the why don't you just use Kodi comment. It's because these people think that there's all this free content out there because they're not paying for it because somebody wrote an add-on and it's really kind of. Do you remember Napster?
Yeah.
Okay, like peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
It's like, or BitTorrent, you know. That's what it is.
Well, it was free as long as everyone was taking it, right? Like, it's free, just like
somebody has some kind of torrent site out there, and they wrote an add-on to access those torrents and stream them, and you're using Kodi to watch them. And that's why people will say, why don't you use Kodi? Because they're like, they went and, you know, either they could have put it together themselves, but there's a lot of these. You know, I get a lot of comments on the blog asking about these Android media boxes, and I don't want to promote any, so I'm not going to name any names. But what they do is an ad will come up and will say, oh, all this HBO free, and you know, all this different content, Showtime free. What they'll do is they'll take a Kodi install, you know, put Android OS on a device. Then put Kodi on, and then they'll write these add-ons or get these add-ons that are already out there and package them all together with all this, you know, free content, and then ship it to somebody. The consumer, some of the times they know, but other times they're like, oh, I have this box and it gives me all this content and I'm good to go.
Right.
Now, you're watching while you might not be breaking the law because it's kind of a gray area when it comes to actually streaming content, you're definitely supporting piracy, and someone's breaking the law somewhere.
And so we don't get a ton of feedback on this. This is not none of and obviously we welcome your feedback, but we do want to be conscious of the fact that we're not saying any of this is necessarily illegal.
It's not. Well, it's not illegal. If I go and fire up a stream and watch it, it's currently not illegal. But I can't say that it is legal,
right?
Either because the laws. It's a gray area within the law.
It's the difference between the letter and the spirit of the law. And honestly, just because it's not illegal now doesn't mean it won't be in the future. So at a minimum, you want to go in eyes open.
Yeah,
well, is really what this comes down to.
Because 2 years ago in the UK, they had this issue. There's a court case. I can't remember the name of the case, but they basically ruled that it's not breaking the law if you watch pirated content, if you stream it.
Right.
Now, that's only in the UK. It doesn't count in the USA. It doesn't count in Canada. But now they're like coming down hard trying to get this changed because they realized it was a bad decision. Because it was a court case. It was a court case, and they just interpreted the law that way, that it was okay to do it. So now they're companies are pressuring them to, change that law, change that, or kind of like reinterpret that ruling and break the precedent. In the US, the DOJ has been pushing to make streaming illegal content a felony in some cases, which is kind of crazy.
Well, so I guess the bottom line is that the trend is for this type of thing to be considered illegal.
Yes, because companies are losing money.
Right.
And
they have powerful interests and
they pay for
lobby.
Campaigns.
Right.
So people will...
And it is what it is, right? Like everyone knows that game.
Right.
So it's not even a judgment call on it. It's a reality, so everyone should be conscious of it when they use these services, especially the unofficial add-ons.
Yeah, I mean, and really, and that's kind of what it comes down to. And for me, because I can agree, yeah, it's a gray area. You're probably not gonna get in any legal trouble if you stream any of these sites, but you could. Because, I mean, it's possible that a company tries to, get charges pressed against you. And if, the law, I mean, if the executive branch of the DOJ, who seems for this,
right,
is like, okay, yeah, we'll try to charge him with this. At that point, it's up to the judge to interpret the law. And they can interpret it either way because it's a gray area.
How that's going to go.
You have no idea. So to say it's legal not to okay is kind of incorrect.
Well, it's overstating.
It's just not illegal.
It is not in our
It's neither
system. It is not
right now.
It is not defined.
Right. It's not. It's undefined. Now, personally, I think that it's easy to make the case that it's unethical.
Right.
And, like, all people will say things like, oh, I'll hear this, oh, boohoo, movie stars, they make millions, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, yes, but what about the dude that, like, builds the set?
Or the key grip.
Right.
I'm not even sure what a key grip is exactly, but
know.
that guy's got to get paid.
One does the gaffer and the grip, they both have tape.
Leave it
lights,
to you to try and figure out what those professions are.
I think it's one's lights and one's electric.
So, but
anyway,
I mean, like I with me, I just look at it and I go, it's just hassle, right? Like it's just stuff I don't need in my life, which is like getting on a letter from the Department of Justice, or whatever. I don't need that, and so I'm not saying that Kodi is something that I wouldn't use. I'm just saying, like, be mindful of the add-ons you use.
And let me clarify, Kodi itself, 100%,
it's totally fine,
100% legal.
Yeah,
there is not one problem with Kodi.
No.
The problem is with
the add-ons,
the people who write these add-ons that are
pulling,
that are streaming pirated software or pirated
that's
media
not
content.
Uncommon for anything that's open source. And in Kodi's defense, as an open source project, it sounds like, from what little bit I've been reading on it, that they are trying to put in controls to review these add-ons more thoroughly as they come in.
Definitely. Not only that, but like Kodi themselves are cracking down on these scammers.
Right.
And they've asked the community, all those people who are coming to the Facebook page and saying, why not just use Kodi? They're asking you guys to turn in these scammers, because that's what they want. The open source community wants to know. It makes the
code that much more legit.
Well, that's right. And, it gives them a bad name, because if people are associating free licensed content pirated
with
Kodi, it's going to hurt Kodi's name.
Well, in what that eventually does, and it's just the reality of it, is it puts it starts a time clock, right? Like on how long it would be around, right? Like that's what happened in Napster.
Oh, well, yeah. You know how reasonable the lawmakers are and how well they know how technology works.
The internet is a series of tubes.
Exactly. The tubes guy is going to go...
Well, Ted Stevens, I think, is dead, but...
Oh, that's right. It was Ted Stevens, wasn't it? Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Someone.
I was gonna say something nasty there. But...
Wow, now we can't do that. So someone, whether it's the series of tubes guy comes into the chamber and possesses someone and gets them to the Kodi bad and make it illegal, because that's not too far fetched, because I think in Canada there was the cable companies basically got some Android devices to be completely pulled from the market, and not all of them were.
No.
Because you can make an Android. You can go ahead and I could make a completely legitimate Kodi install on, some type of hardware. And for people that don't want to worry about getting the software and getting it all set up. And you could sell that. I mean,
undoubtedly someone has.
Right. And it'd be completely legit. So we're not saying every single box out there is bad, but I mean, more than not, if someone's saying you're going to watch free TV,
well,
I would raise an eyebrow.
It's the typical, right? Like, if it sounds too good to be true, it is.
Right.
That being said, I mean, like, when I was reading through the features, and I watched some of the, and obviously, if you haven't gathered this as of yet, Dennis has actually used Kodi. I have not.
Right. It's a great product.
I'm just speaking from like what I've read and so on. But from what I've read and seen of, tutorials on Kodi, like one of the features that I thought was the coolest was the scrapers they have that will actually pull out all of the metadata and the associated imagery and so on with, like, say, your album covers and, who was the producer and all of those things, and like the guides for television and so on. I mean, like that's really slick. And the fact that they can do that across so many different media types is impressive.
It is. It's a pretty good. It's a great product, and I know I'm just repeating myself, but it is. It's excellent. And another cool thing. Now, this isn't. You need added technology to do this, but you can build not only can you have a media center with all of your digital media in one spot, but you can build a DVR using. What you do is you would use Kodi, your Kodi device, as the front end.
Right.
And you would set something up, like I know a lot of people are big fans of something called Myth TV. It runs on a Linux install, but there's actually something out there called Myth Ubuntu, which is a purely built. What's up?
Do you have an article on? Don't you have an article on the
actually
blog?
I have an article on Kodi, and within the article on Kodi, it links to the section in Kodi that tells you how to build a Myth TV backend.
Okay, so shameless plug, but I was pretty sure that was
it's there. So what you can do is you can grab the Myth Ubuntu install, throw it on a piece of hardware, and if you have like a network attached storage or even external hard drive attached to the thing, or just a ton of hard drives on the thing, you can take something like there's HD Home Run is one. It's it's basically a tuner. It's a tuner that's not within your TV. It's just a standalone tuner, and you can. But what the cool thing about that though is it encodes it. The new one, it can encode it, and you can run it over the internet. I mean, over your network. Excuse me. So you can hook your antenna to the HD Home Run, plug that into your router, and then pull stuff from the antenna onto the server with Myth TV.
Man,
and I know it's complicated, but
no. But those of you who are listening to this couldn't see. I was like shaking my head, and it's actually not because of how complicated it is. It's just it was actually because of how much is possible these days.
Oh yeah,
like now that everything's digital, right? Like especially. When things that came over the airwaves started going digital, whenever that was,
2007 or 9, 7. I think it was originally 7.
Refer back to our previous episode,
right?
But I mean, like now, it's just there's so much possible now that we're moving away from analog.
Oh yeah.
You do. I mean, I do miss analog for certain things, which is why I still have some LPs around, but.
Oh well, yeah. You want
sans that.
You want that little, the pops.
The pops, yeah. Man, it doesn't like blues music doesn't sound right without it sounding.
Everyone born after 1980 just fell asleep.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. Actually, they're big again.
Yeah.
The kids are digging.
We've literally got in this town that we live in. Literally have a store that sells nothing but LPs,
right? Records,
and associated stuff with.
Yeah. So I
digress.
But
Dennis.
Okay, so you get the Myth TV set up, and that's really just going to, it also has your guide data and everything, and it's going to hold your recordings, and it'll record. You can set it. You can interface with Myth TV through your Kodi front end, so you can basically have a running DVR on Kodi that's recording all of this stuff off your antenna. And you can set recordings just like you can with the stuff you're familiar with from your cable company that you've seen before. Yeah. And record all your, over-the-air television, and then have all your streaming stuff. And that's why Kodi's pretty cool. But with that, you got to update it. You have to maintain it. It's a little bit of a project.
Right.
So, and if you're, and I tell most people who are just looking to kind of save money by cutting cable, that while Kodi is fun and awesome, if you want to learn, about this technology, go for it. But if you just want to watch television, get yourself a Roku.
Right.
Because...
And I'll tell you, in my household, we have a Roku. And it's not because things like Kodi aren't awesome. They are. It's just I don't have the time.
That's where I am. And not only that, but... if you have a spouse or other family members you're living with,
they might not be so patient.
They're going to get very angry when there needs to be an update.
I have 3 children,
and the good wife's on.
Yeah, right.
You're in trouble.
I'm like, there's several shows that I could lose a finger for if I ran afoul of.
Right, and I mean, and the kids. I mean, try to tell like a 5-year-old that they can't watch Disney Junior or whatever have you right now.
My oldest
because
is coming
Daddy
up,
has to fix the Kodi.
My oldest is coming up on 7, and if his cartoons are not ready to go around 7:30,
heads roll.
Well, there's at least trouble. I think I can still take him if it came down to it. So I'm all right, but not for much longer. So what's wild to me is like the law, in quotes, the law,
right?
You know, the man is looking at the use of content homogeneously, like whether it's the downloading of content, which to me is like you've got it and you're keeping it and you intend to use it for ever.
Yeah.
As opposed to the streaming of content, which is temporary use. You're just watching it go by.
Right. And that's it's very nuanced. And like how we were saying earlier, I don't know how well our lawmakers are equipped to deal with these nuances when it comes to technology.
Well, I mean, like the truthfulness is that they're not, and it's not really a knock on them. They're as equipped as their staff is, but their staff is outgunned. I mean, like they've got to stay up on every topic, not just this genre of everything.
Right.
It's foreign policy, etc. Right? Like it's everything you can imagine.
Yeah, but I mean, the global warming debate. I don't mean to bring that into it, but when it comes to looking at facts and science,
right, that ship sailed.
I'm a bit worried that the care isn't taken all of the time when it comes to high technical issues, yeah. and that's kind of what it is. And the difference between streaming and downloading is you're keeping it, and essentially you have a tangible asset at that point,
right.
And you got it for free, and you shouldn't have.
The other thing that's important to note there between the difference between downloading and streaming is that the potential for redistribution is there when you download.
Right.
Whereas if you're streaming, it has come and gone.
Right. And there are lawmakers, like I said, the DOJ is looking at making these a felony. So,
and treating them as equivalents, which I think is really the most disturbing.
Right. Especially, and I want to bring this up because it's cool. There's this article on Vox, and the issue came up, the streaming service, or the video service, Vimeo?
Yeah.
Okay. So they got a takedown order to take off, I think it was, there's a Blade Runner, some Friends episodes that were up there. And the movie Blade Runner. And they come to find out, the thing that they ordered them to take down wasn't really a copy of the movie Blade Runner.
It wasn't the actual Blade Runner.
What it was this guy who was doing a project took if you're not like a neural network, basically it's a bunch of computers that, or it's a bunch of computer resources and an algorithm, right, where essentially the computer is learning by experiencing.
Yeah, and I will tell you that I started working with, quote unquote learning algorithms in 2005 with scanning software, meaning like paper scanning software. Mm-hmm. And not like I'm good at reading the tea leaves, but I was like, oh, okay. We're building Skynet.
Right. It is.
We're doomed.
Right?
Like that's what it comes down to.
The simplest example that most people are familiar with is every once in a while, if you swipe your bank card to get gas after buying, say, a big television, and then all of a sudden you get like your card shut off because the bank is worried That's because a neural network at some point realized that all these purchases together are a very high probability of fraud.
Right.
So the neural network figured, and that's kind of, that's an example of machine learning.
Yeah, it's probabilistic, learning, pattern recognition,
Exactly.
all of those
It's a bunch of things
lumped into one.
So what this guy did was basically put together an algorithm for a neural network and then started letting its computer watch Blade Runner. And it's not like the computer copied the digital media. It just watched Blade Runner. And then the guy said, okay, tell me your interpretation of Blade Runner.
And if I understood you correctly before when we were talking about it, it also watched a lot of other films to get a sense of
different
types of film.
Well, it basically showed them a couple different films, and then to teach the system how to say, okay, these images belong together.
Right.
These
how to interpret
not.
It.
And once they basically said so, and they showed them that it wasn't the original Blade Runner, but it's the interpret. It was it was me if I watched a movie and then drew it in a flip book and then showed it to you. That really wouldn't be illegal.
No. It fairly close, and I think I was telling you this earlier. I some of my favorite things I ever saw on YouTube, to this day, was when Snakes on the Plane came out. There were a bunch of these bits that were put out by people that were they were basically like their interpretation of Snakes on the Plane after they had seen it. And it was like, a guy had taken crayons and drawn Samuel Jackson on the side of a plane wrestling a snake. And then another one was Samuel Jackson footage fighting with a lightsaber from Star Wars and so on.
That's
so
back when memes would last a couple months.
Oh, it was fantastic.
I know. Back then, something would be funny for a couple months. Today, it's like, if you're not on the meme train within the first 2 hours, it's gone. It's like ceases to be funny.
This was what, 2006?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it goes by too fast these days. It's like the funny, if you're not there when the funny happens.
Back in my day, my digital memes used to last
Snakes
a long
on the Plane
time.
was funny for months.
Months.
Yeah, now it's like the Irma Gard girl, the Burks girl. She was gone. She was funny for 2 weeks and then gone.
So this thing is a mechanical Turk.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing that I saw, the quote in the Vox article, which was a brilliant quote, was that they just issued a takedown notice for artificial reconstruction of a film about artificial intelligence being indistinguishable from humans because it couldn't distinguish between the simulation and the real thing. That is such a deep.
Well, if you and I encourage, let's put this in the show notes. Let's put the link to that.
Oh, the Vox article?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Because if you read that quote and you think about it hard enough, you will pass out and your nose will bleed.
It's great.
Right? It is one of those things where it is artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and this is really, we bring this up because it's really to kind of give an idea of how gray this area is. It's
getting grayer too.
And it's to the point now where I can't trust the lawyers. I can't trust even the judges. I just have to go on what my gut tells me. And I'm a scientific-minded person most of the time. And for me to say that, it's got to be really gray. And I think this situation, if I fall back to ethics. If it feels like you said earlier, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't.
Yeah.
And you're probably, if you're streaming this content and from a BitTorrent stream unknowingly, you're taking, not you personally, but people are losing money, and not just actors.
To me, it's really
blue collar working people,
right,
are losing money because they're building the sets. The drivers, everybody who works on a production. is losing money.
If you're watching what you see as valuable stuff for whatever reason, and you aren't at a minimum seeing ads,
Right.
something's up.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you didn't pay for it through subscription and you're not watching ads, you probably are doing something that's not kosher. Right? Yep. And it's not a judgment. It's just a reality.
Yeah, and we're just really saying this I'm not pointing a finger. I just don't want people to unknowingly go and start.
I'm sure I've done it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've done it at some point or another.
Yeah. I just don't trust somebody who's going to tell you, Kodi, you can watch everything for free, because it's you can't.
No.
Well, you can't and be a 100% in good conscience,
and not eventually probably get in trouble with the law.
Probably more than likely.
Probably.
But I mean, and I don't want
hating on Kodi.
Not at all. Kodi not associated with piracy in the least.
No.
It's these scammers who are taking their product and putting it together.
It sounds so bad because everything sounds like we're like hugging and hitting Kodi.
Yeah, I am. I know. It's like we love you. We love you, Kodi. Pop. Yeah, it's like we're the abusive.
And the reality, abusive spouse
of Kodi.
And the reality is, Kodi seems like a really, really solid service. You know, and it's just because of the nature of it being open source, has a lot of inputs in terms of these add-ons, so you just need to be a little careful.
Right, and I mean, if you're tech minded or want to get a little tech minded, the community has a great wiki out there.
Yeah,
it is really easy to get into. I'll put that in the show notes, the link to that as well, and it takes you step by step on getting your first install of Kodi in. And then it just goes from there, and it's real easy to learn, and the community is very helpful.
That's another thing to be mindful with any of these types of projects. Anytime you deal with open source, is find the people in the community who are clearly leaders and follow their lead.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to lead you astray, because they're in these things for the long term. So yes, could they get reruns of Three's Company, one of my favorite shows?
It's a good show.
Yeah. For free, yes.
Are you more Roper or Furley?
Oh, why is the question? It's Roper.
Yeah. See, really?
Yeah.
That I like the Roper as well. I'm kind of on the fence.
Well, I mean, I get it. Furley's hands were registered as lethal weapons.
They were, and it's Don Knotts,
if you remember, and Don Knotts.
But I will agree. That
Roper,
my love for Furley is purely Don Knotts.
Yeah.
But Roper's character worked better with Jack. There was a better dynamic there, I thought.
Roper he was the original. He broke the fourth wall all the time.
Yes. And
in television, at least at that time, I think he was the only character that did.
Yeah, it was a rarity.
I'm sure I'm wrong. Someone's going to blow us up on the comments about me not remembering someone from I Dream of Jeannie who would do it.
He was the Deadpool of early 70s television.
Totally the Deadpool of 70s situational comedy.
I think we've said all we can say about Kodi. Well, at least that's not all there is to say. It's just all we can say right now at this moment. So thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next Monday.
All right. Thanks.
Give me something else.
All right. Take care, everyone.
There you go. I don't know. I just wanted a couple.
Sign off.
I know. Is thanks the sign off? Thanks.
Enjoy your burrito.
I know. We need to get better. Hope the people at Nerdist have a sense of humor about us using their chime. That falls under Perry law, right? Yeah, maybe. If you want to help Joel out, maybe give some tips on how to close a show, you can go to our Facebook page and leave a comment, or you could tweet us at Grounded Reason, or you could go to groundedreason.com/podcasts, pick the latest podcast, leave a comment on the show notes. If you're enjoying the show, please help us out by subscribing. When you subscribe, our rankings go up in iTunes. More people get introduced to the show. Also, when you subscribe, you get news updates when things happen that's pertinent to Grounded Reason listeners. For instance, if a new subscription streaming service comes out or one service adds a new channel, I'll hop on the mic and do an update. And if you subscribe, that'll go into your feed and you'll get it same day. And I'll be recording it same day. So it's like a a news feed. Not quite live, a little bit delayed, but it's a good way to get some information for all you cord cutters out there. To get an idea of what those are like, you can go check out the one that was released last week on internet privacy. All right, again, everybody, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next Monday, or maybe sooner if any news happens this week.